Hello everyone, I am Janine Rose L. Reyes together with Irish Orkeza and Dario Orkeza. Today, we will discussing about Vietnamese literature. Introduction. A revolutionary movement that took place in the first part of the 20th century represented a paradigm shift in Vietnamese poetry. Vietnamese poetry originated in the form of folk poetry and proverbs. It was spawned mainly by contrast with Western literary and poetry developments of the 19th century and early 20th century. Vietnamese poets, eager for modernization, wasted no time to adopt French versification, prosody rules, and in the process began to sever their ties to the old classical poetic tradition. Vietnamese writers are eagerly embrace the more liberal circumstances to revisit the past and revise the black and white, ideologically tended portrayal of important issues from Vietnamese history in a critical, individualistic, and multifaceted way. The adoption has also accelerated the modernization of literature. A range of reforms and deregulations leads to the loosening of states' control and increased cultural exchange with Western countries. Vietnamese poetry. According to Thomas Daly, new verse forms and styles were introduced, new ways of expression, new ideas, and a totally new artistic tradition were being established that were to change the direction and tenor of Vietnamese poetry forever. Breaking out of the mold of traditionalism and imbued with Western ideas, Vietnamese poets of the first 4 decades of the 20th century staged their revolution with fervor and enthusiasm, foiled further by a multitude of thematic orientations. Thematic orientation means concern with the subject or theme or something or with a themes and topics in general, like emotions, ideas, thought of all kinds, romantic, pedagogic, cultural, philosophic, historic, and even political, dominated the creative process, riding effortlessly and spontaneously on novel stylistic and parasodic forms. As a language, Vietnamese is exceptionally flexible and lyrical, and poetry plays a strong role in both literature and the performing arts. Folk arts, which flourished before French colonization, has experienced resurgence in beautiful woodcuts, village painting, and block printing. A block printing is a craft and a time-honored art that holds a special place in Vietnam cultural history. By the late 11th or early 12th century, the Vietnamese were already producing collections of Buddhist sutras through wood black printing. Vietnamese lacquer art, another traditionalism medium, is commonly held to be the most original and sophisticated in the world. Music, dance, and puppetry, including the uniquely Vietnamese water puppetry, are also mainstays of the country's culture. Vietnamese art is visual art that, whether ancient or modern, originated in or is practiced in Vietnam or by Vietnamese artists. The Vietnamese music is what they called folk music. Vietnamese folk music is extremely diverse and include danca, quan hu, hát tung, hát chau van, cat lu, hu, and hát cham, among other forms. The Vietnamese dance is called the Lion Dragon Dance, is one of the most popular traditional dance throughout Vietnam, including the uniquely Vietnamese water puppetry are also mainstays of the country's culture. Through the scene depicting heroism, courage, perseverance, and others, Vietnamese water puppet theater serves as a tool for fostering nationalism, creating and solidifying a cultural identity and serving as a reminder of the Vietnamese of their agrarian past. That would be the end of my report. And now, the next reporter will be discussing the Mandarin and the Flower Festival by Pam Doi Kim, Miss Irish Orgaza.
To continue the discussion about Vietnam literature, I am introducing to you myself. I am Dario L. Orqueza III from BSED 3 English. And for today's discussion, my part is to discuss about the literary journey of Vietnam literature. Ngo Sanjo. Ngo Sanjo is a poet, journalist, writer, and a literary critic in Vietnam, known as one of the typical figures of the new poetry movement of the 20th century. Sanjo was honored during his lifetime as a king of love poems, or the greatest love of new poets. His best known works were published in 1938 and 1945, classified by critics as the new poet among the new poets. Sanjo is famous for his collection of poetry, showing a particular voice influenced by Western literature, especially symbolism. He was one of the first to use Western poems between 1936 to 1944. His poetry is characterized by a desperation of love interspersed with a desire to live and experience the beauty of the world. After joining the Communist Party of Vietnam in 1945, the subject of his writing turns to the party and the resistance against France and the United States. Upon his death in 1985, he left around 450 poems as well as the number of short stories, essays, and literary reviews. And now, let's proceed to Lu Trung Lu. Lu Trung Lu, born on June 6, 1912 at Cao Ha, Bu Trak District, Quang Binh Province. He came from a scholarly Mandarin family and attended the Kuk Hook High School in Hue and left for Hanoi, where he continued his education in a private schools. He dropped out for a career in journalism, writing poetry and literary pieces. He was a founder of Ngan Sun Tung Su, the Silver Mountain Literary Gazette, and became the head of general of the Theater Society of Vietnam. His works were the poems of The Sound of Autumn in 1939, The Young Woman from Giant River in 1966, From This Land in 1971, and um, age Toy Hai Moi age 20, a drama in 1973. The poem praises autumn, describing its abundance, harvest, and transition into winter, and uses intense, sensuous imagery to elevate the fleeting beauty of the moment. On the other hand, Autumn is one of the temperate seasons where it marks as the transition from summer to winter. Moreover, the poem expresses the hard times life of a person during the season of autumn. In fall, the growing cycle gives us ripeness and maturity. However, it makes people more diligent on preparing themselves in this season. To put things differently, describing the season of fall is in this poem was similarly to the definition from other sources and other countries. It is when summer ends and winter comes. The point of this poem is to rely the experience of a person during the season of autumn or fall. Thus, autumn represents the adulthood, maturity as well, and it is the life cycle of the season and the person.
Good day once again. This is Irish Orqueza, and now I will be discussing with you one of the short stories in Vietnam literature, which is entitled The Mandarin and the Flower Festival. Okay, so since it is already evident that this piece of writing is posted in our G classroom, so I will be no longer reading with you the text since I am expecting that you have already your idea. But to broaden your idea and understanding about the certain piece, I will only give the analysis of the story. Okay, so first, let's discuss with the author. So who is the man behind that short story? Or who is the author of the short story entitled The Mandarin and the Flower Festival? So Pham Doi Kim, he is a fiction writer born in Vietnam. So he is the reason behind that kind of short story. So he is also the first Vietnamese classicist and a prominent political and intellectual leader in the middle of 20th century in Vietnam. His works covers many genres and tell story of his homeland. So he studied in France after high school and joined the French army. So he returned to Vietnam to teach and serve in the South Vietnam government as an ambassador to France in 1956 to 1957. So that's the brief background of the author of the short story. Now, we have also here the characters. So, Tutok serve as the protagonist of the story. Now, who is he? So, he is a Mandarin that is born in the province of Tanawa and he governed the district of Tiendo. So, Giang Hong is also the daughter of a fairy named Ngoy Queen. So, Ngoy Queen fairy is the mother of Giang, and also, we have here the two servant girls in the old man, which is the grandson of Totok. So that's it for the characters. And now, let's be acquainted with the setting, the theme, and the point of view used in the story. So the story took place in the district of Tiando. And then they uses or the author uses the point of view, which is the third person point of view. And of course, what was the message or what is the theme in the story? So the theme in the story is about culture and religion, how the people appreciates their beliefs and desires. So that's it for the setting, the theme, the point of view used in the story. Now, let's proceed with the conflict. So what was the conflict in the story? So the protagonist, which is feeling lonely and sad. So Totok wanted to go back to where he had come from, but the chariot had changed into phoenix and the fabulous bird flying away disappeared in the sky. So that's the reason why he feels lonely and sad. Okay, so now what's the resolution in the story? So he realized that the parting was forever. So wearing a light cloak and a conical hat, Totok went up the Yellow Mountain in the Nongkong district in Tanoa province and he never come back. So no one knows whether he went back to the king of the fairies or whether he was lost in the mountain. Okay, From now on, since that's the analysis of the story, I will share with you the synopsis of the story, or the what's the reflection, or what's my reflection behind that kind of short story. Okay. So similar to the histories of Siddhartha Gautama, Buddhism under culture and practices makes sense as having a flower festival, as an offering for Buddha and Totok in search of what he desires and being enlightened. So it is a great way to emphasize their culture and religion in the story. So when the time he reached enlightenment, Tutok will go back from that place again and realizing that he accepted it and he went somewhere else and never found again, or something else happened depending on what kind of ending you wanted. So even if it is a fictional story, so this is a story for Vietnamese to appreciate their culture and beliefs for Buddhism that had many teachings regarding life and saying that nothing is permanent in this world. So that's end my discussion. Thank you so much for listening, and I do hope that I gave you an overview about the short story, or how that kind of short story reflects to the culture and the religion of Vietnam. So thank you so much for listening, and God bless us all. Thank you.